How can I carve space? You're like, yes, Damon, I get it. I felt like I couldn't rest, but now I'm realizing I can. And I was worried about my business falling apart, but I'm realizing that it'll be fine. My ultimate question is, how can I actually carve space? And this is an important one because we could have the knowledge and saying, yeah, I definitely need to rest. And I think there's ways I can do it with my business, but how do I actually make space? Excuse me. The first thing is to actually know what your priority is. What's the most important thing? We've been talking about that a lot on the live episodes. One great book about that is called Essentialism by Greg McEwen. It's in the link. Shout out to Greg. But finding different ways to say, this is the main thing. In Essentialism, they talk about the priority. And priority is well, just say it's Latin. I think it's either Greek or Roman. But it comes from the Latin term meaning the one. In other words, we're not meant to have multiple priorities. We're meant to have one priority. It's literally what priority, the root word or the root meaning of priority is. It means one. The priority, the one. So what is the main thing? And that might shift. As I've talked about recently, when my kids were a lot younger, as in babies and toddlers, and before they went to preschool and school, kindergarten and all that, they were my priority. So my best-selling books, and even before, it was before I had the TV show here, but the speaking engagements, even some of the TED stuff that I did was second tier. The first tier is, let me make sure my babies stay alive to turn age 5, which if you're a parent, you can relate to that. It's like, I just want them to make it. Not from a place of stress as in they're not going to make it, but more like you don't want to screw it up. You only get that one chance to give the foundation psychologically and otherwise for these beautiful human beings that you've given birth to. It's like, okay, I gotta get this right. But then after our youngest started going to not preschool, but with kindergarten, their needs shifted. They weren't in diapers anymore. And then my needs shifted where I was like, oh, I can actually look at other things and I can start this show. The show started around the time that my son turned 5. That's not a coincidence. He just turned 8. This show is 3 years old. Zero coincidence there. Talking about with the previous question about strategies. That's a strategy. It's like, I can't do anything else. Oh, okay. They're going off to school. All right. Well, and they don't need me as much. I have a little bit of room to start a TV show. Let's go. I connect with my coaching clients on a bigger level and connect with some of y'all that will never be my coaching clients because we might never connect in person, but at least I can support y'all on your particular journey and be part of this non-traditional entrepreneurial movement. That's what I mean by priority, knowing what that one thing is and then trying to build everything around it. The second thing is saying no. And my partner always teases me about it. My family teases me about it, where I'm one of those people where I don't have a problem saying no. And I got so many stories. The amount of volunteering I've been asked to do or to do this or that. And luckily I know what my priority is. So it's like, it doesn't fit in that priority. Okay, well then that's a no from me. And there's ways that you can kindly say no. I think I have a video about it in some of the earlier Bring Your Worth episodes. You can go and look it up at bringyourworth.tv, of course, about saying no. But there's kind ways to do it. That's one of the reasons why I feel comfortable with it, because it's not from a place of malice as in, I'm not going to help you, or I'm not going to help your organization. It's more like, no, actually, if I work with you, then number one, I'll be spreading myself too thin, and I'm not going to be showing up for you or the folks I already made a commitment to. And number two, as I implied, I already made a commitment to these folks. So how would it feel if I made a commitment to you and I made a commitment to someone else and I said I didn't show up for you in the way that I promised? And so when you put it in those kinds of terms, not as intense, but those terms, it makes it a lot easier to say no to things. These things you say no to, you might really want to do them, or you might want to really be there for someone else or some organization or whatever. You might want to really work with this client. Maybe the timing isn't there. And if you think about it like this, if you don't carve out the time to rest, if you don't find a way to take a break, then again, the whole machine's going to shut down. Like if you look at the body as a machine, it's going to eventually shut down. That's kind of how it works. There's literally millions of stories, lots of books and literature that keep telling us the same thing. We're not meant to be on fire, fifth gear the entire time. That's not how we're built. And so saying no is actually a place of kindness, because if you know you're not really going to show up as your best for the person that wants you to be there, then why don't you just say no to them? If you say yes to this other thing, then it's going to fall apart for your other commitments. Then why would you do that? Again, it gets really deep quickly with the psychology of it. Because as soon as we start to realize we have a choice, then suddenly we have to question why we're not making that choice. If we realize we can rest at any moment, and we realize we're choosing not to rest, then we have to go deeper. If we know that saying yes to this one thing is going to overwhelm us, but we keep saying yes anyway, then what is it really feeding? Because as soon as we know we have a choice and we don't have to do it, then we're realizing, oh, actually, I am choosing to do it. Why? That's kind of the energy of this. If you want to take a break, if you want to rest, almost always you have that option. And if you don't have that option, it's a period of time in your life. It's a season. But once that season is done, or before that season comes where we're in that hustle, I get it. I've done 2 startups, got little kids, I get it. But all this is seasonal. Very rarely, especially if you have the resources, the wherewithal, the time to even listen to me, you might be at a certain status as far as having an amount of resources. It's not always going to be grind time. No, things are seasonal. What season are you in? You might be in grind season. Godspeed to you. But grind season is going to end. You have to recognize when it ends, and then you have to be equipped mentally, physically, particularly emotionally, to allow yourself to rest. Otherwise, you ain't going to make it. If you're going to go deeper into that topic, book that I really enjoy called Hell Yeah or No by Derek. Actually, it's Derek Sivers. I know what Derek River is. I think it autocorrected, but the link is good below. Sorry, Derek. I love your work. I swear I didn't mess up your name on purpose. I think the autocorrect got me. I first heard about this guy on a Tim Ferriss show ages ago. Like, oh my gosh, I think my second kid was born. So it was probably about 8 years ago. Long time ago. And then he came out with a book about this concept. I think he actually did a TED Talk about it. I don't think I ever saw a TED Talk, but I think it was before I started going to TED. So he must have did a TED Talk. I've been going to TED for like 12 years. So he must have did a TED Talk 15 years ago. The basic point is this. He lives his life as in if he's going to be into something, if he's going to say yes to a speaking engagement, because we're both public speakers. If he's going to say yes to a speaking engagement, if he's going to say yes to going on this trip, if he's going to say yes to helping his buddy with something, it has to be a hell yeah. As in, yes, I want to do this. Otherwise, it's a no. That sounds like a lot of privilege, but once you start to break it down, you realize that that's actually how all of us in some way should be functioning. Now, if a family member desperately needed something or whatever, of course, you should be there, assuming you're cool with the family member. Like, of course. If a friend needed it, which I consider chosen family, of course, you're there. But we're talking about that squishy stuff in between. That stuff that you say yes to, and you're realizing, maybe I shouldn't have said yes. That sense of regret, I know you know what I'm talking about. That sense of regret where you're like, oh, I know I'm committed to this, but I don't even want to do this. Why put ourselves through that? Why put the other person or organization through that? Because now they're thinking you're hell yeah, but you're really, you're meh, M-E-H. Like, This book breaks it down. It's a super short book. I was trying to find my copy of it. I think it's somewhere. If you watched the Clutter episode last week, you know the amount of books I have right now because I'm doing so much research for this show and the other stuff that I'm doing. The book's somewhere around here, but it's a great place to start if you're dealing with that confrontation of how do I say no to things and whittle my stuff down. And my recommendation is how do I make time to rest? Ultimate Live Guide. I talked about this, more about making the time to rest versus calming down, but it hits a lot of those similar topics, and it's also much bigger, a lot more material, a lot more content, a lot more book recommendations and video recommendations. If you're kind of craving more and you're like, Damon, I'm not sure where to go next, this would be a great way to do that. I think this mega episode came out top of the year maybe, but I had a whole live episode dedicated to rest and tools, literal tools, whether it's software or whatever, that you can use to rest yourself. We didn't get into that today because more of the psychological and emotional aspect of it and how we can continue to run our business. This episode right here gets into it. All the links are below. And yeah, they're free for you to enjoy. It's episode 349, so it wasn't that far back. But I so appreciate y'all coming through. Again, I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. Help side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. If you want to coach together or you're interested in my coaching, just go to damonbrown.net. We can set up a free call and see if we're a good match. Because sometimes I'm not the right coach. That part. I'm not the right coach for you. And sometimes I realize that, you know what? You might not be the client that I can get to the next level. But, feel free to set up a free call. We can have that conversation with that. You're watching the Bring Your Worth show. BringYourWorth.tv every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And you can subscribe for free right below. And my latest book, The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection, is available everywhere good books are sold. And my book too. I think my book is pretty good. I think you guys might enjoy it. Anyway, please enjoy your rest. Remember to breathe and calm down today. I got my tea. I'm definitely on my calm streak. And until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.